Open daily. Apple Valley Orchards, 423-472-3044. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings from 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
For years, America's most liberal politicians have pushed a radical government takeover of healthcare, and so has multimillionaire politician Phil Bredesen. Bredesen is on record in the Tennessee press supporting single-payer healthcare. Bredesen even wrote a book advocating for socialized medicine. Even the Los Angeles Times called it, quote, pretty radical stuff. Phil Bredesen's government-run healthcare system would cost $2 trillion a year and hike payroll taxes 20% for every worker. Even worse, Bredesen's plan would eliminate your family's employer-provided health insurance, making you dependent on the government and giving bureaucrats more powers over your health care. Higher taxes, bigger government, rationed care. Phil Bredesen's government takeover of health care is too big a risk. We can't afford him in the Senate. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood.
We've got you covered radio right here on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. Back in the studio today. Big thank you to Jared Butler from Schedule Butler. He was kind enough to come in and cover for us last week. The big thank you to them. If you are a business owner and you are looking to be able to free up your schedule to actually handle more business and let somebody else handle the scheduling, keeping your schedule straight, Schedule Butler is a great place to be able to get those things handled for you. They really help you increase your efficiency. So if you are a business owner and you're looking forward to being able to have more free time to be able to get things scheduled and be able to actually make money instead of talking to people about making money, give Schedule Butler a call. You can join us in the studio right now, 423-800-8949, or you can reach us on Facebook Live at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. We are broadcasting live. And in the studio today, I have a special guest, Josh Cairns. He is with Paper Moon Properties, and we are going to be discussing rental property today. So with rental property, a lot of people are starting to see that this is a great way to start making some money, bringing in some residual income. Everybody needs to have a little bit of residual income to help make ends meet every now and then, and also being able to just go in and make sure that, you know, you're preparing for the future. The stock market is doing great right now. There are some other ways for people to invest because the economy's doing well. But what about when the economy's not doing that great? One thing that they don't make more of is real estate. And that can be something that once you start investing in real estate, you can start seeing your savings and your retirement accounts really start to build and provide you a definite cushion when things are going bad. I know a lot of people are looking to buy nowadays, but you know, the real estate market as far as rental is still pretty high as well. So if you're looking for something like that, real estate is a great way to invest, and maybe using a property management company is a way for you to be able to reap the benefits, but not really have as much of the headaches.
Yeah, that's totally right. There's a lot of pitfalls when it comes to property rentals, and it's easy to step on the wrong toes or just not know your laws or your logistics and find yourself upside down really quickly.
So with the way things are in Chattanooga, this market, I've said it before, this market is insane right now. I mean, houses are going extremely fast. You know, you have something that's listed one day, and then it's got a contract on it by the end of the next day. And, you know, it's property is just getting snapped up. I know there's a lot of depressed properties that a lot of people that are looking for investment properties are trying to buy up, but a lot of the better depressed properties are starting to be sold out. So now people are looking at even some higher end properties. Is using an investment company, a property management company, something that you need to use just for the lower end properties, or is that also for high end properties as well?
No, you should use it for any property. You run into the problem, you know, all of the extra work that you didn't expect to have to do, and the finding of a tenant, and it takes it so you can just be hands off. You can reap the benefits of owning real estate that is an investment of its own right, as well as then putting that money aside, and then not having to deal with, you know, showing up at midnight or anything like that for an emergency call.
Yeah. Now, I personally have some investment property, and you have a few months, you know, maybe nothing goes wrong. It's fine. Checks are coming in on a regular basis. It's great because it's money that is maybe, you know, it's not money that you have to keep coming out of pocket every month. Hopefully money's coming in, but sometimes when things go wrong, I mean, it's a constant just pain in the butt to be able to, you know, have to deal with tenants over and over and over again. And like you said, sometimes they're calling 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and, you know, you have something going on and you've got to address it. So property management companies will manage these things 24 hours.
Correct. That's what we do. That's our job. We have either somebody on staff that's on call, or whoever is running the company would have to come out and handle that. And you get to sit at home and you just get a report that says, hey, you had a leak last night, and you don't have to show up and fix it. And then if we call out a company and fix it doesn't get fixed right, you don't have to worry about calling them back or chasing down the contractor that did the work. We do all that for you. So
with you guys over at Paperman Properties, you currently have a pretty good stable of contractors that you use. So do you get cost benefit for that?
Often, yes. A lot of contractors will work with us a little more because we have continuous business with them. Pardon me. And they will, you know, allow us to, you know, get a bulk rate, a discount rate, as, you know, you get that club benefit, that pricing of, instead of having one house that you might need worked on, I have, say, 150, and therefore I can get that price across all of my units instead of just getting the base price for one unit.
If you have any questions about rental property or about property management, feel free to send us a question over on Facebook Live at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. And also, you can send us in a question on the phone lines, 423-800-8949. Now, I know you, we do a lot of work for you guys with Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, handling roof leaks, siding problems, gutter problems, things like that. Some of the other ones you use, Rick's Electric, who is somebody that we recommend to everybody anytime you have an electrical problem. Call Shane over at Rick's Electric. Plumbing wise, I think you guys use Ray's Plumbing.
Yes.
And then for HVAC work, who do you guys use?
We use Assured Comfort Heating and Air.
Okay. So by having all these things, it's kind of like they're all in-house. You're able to handle some of these things faster at a better rate.
Yeah, correct. You know, a lot of times I even ran into a problem at my previous company where I had an electrical issue and my electrician had retired. And I found myself calling around, and electricians were booked up for 6 to 8 months in advance. Up in the Washington State area, they were just so behind on all of their work and had a pool of need for electricians up there. And so now I've got a tenant who has no power at their house, and I'm being told, you know, the soonest somebody can come work on it is 2 months out. In this case, you know, here we have Shane over at Rick's Electric, and he's actually, you know, pulled himself off of other jobs that were, you know, didn't have a priority to him to come over and deal with the priority situation for us because we have that rapport with him.
Yeah, you've got a long-term relationship, and so people that have rental property can take advantage of those relationships that you've built with these contractors.
Correct.
And be able to get them handled.
Yep.
Yeah, I know a lot of times two of the most expensive things you're going to deal with rental property is roofing and HVAC. And I know we've got a good relationship to where we handle anything with you guys. And of course, Assured Comfort Heat and Air also handles anything like that. And then the next things you're going to start dealing with is, you know, major catastrophic things where, you know, maybe somebody bought a piece of rental property, didn't quite do all the inspection that they should have done. And now you start finding problems on the back end. So therefore Rick's is able to come in and take care of those problems.
Correct. And same with plumbing situations and things like that. You might buy a property and it might look good up front, and you think that, you know, okay, well, I'm just going to move somebody in and get on with it, and I'm going to earn money off of it. And then you find out, you know, oh, there's a plumbing leak, and you call out a plumber, and the plumber comes in, and now he's giving you a list of things that, you know, it's not just one little pipe leaking here, but it's, you know, all the way back to the street, and you're looking at a major contract to do new construction, whereas, you know, we already have somebody on staff that can go ahead and start that work for you and work towards that final goal.
Well, let's talk a little bit right now about, so say we're looking for rental property. One thing that we definitely need, there's a couple different ways that we can find rental property. You can go out and you can do the work yourself, try to, you know, find properties that are available, check foreclosure lists, which those get shorter and shorter every year. There's still some foreclosures out there that you can take advantage of. But going out and just driving through a neighborhood, finding properties that might be boarded up, finding properties that look like there's no curtains in the window, things like that. You can see little signs, and usually for people that are kind of in that industry of finding properties like that, it's easy for them to find them. Now, you can go through a real estate agent, and with going through a real estate agent, you've got some protections as far as, you know, making sure that everybody's due diligence is done. They have some contractual obligations. They have some regulatory obligations that they have to meet to make sure that you, the buyer, is protected. Another way of going through finding rental properties is to use a wholesaler. Now, wholesalers have advantages and disadvantages. One, they aren't regulated by the state the way an insurance agent is. But wholesalers are able to get you properties probably for a little bit less than a licensed realtor would be. Now, for all my friends who are licensed realtors, I apologize for even discussing wholesalers. I know that's a dirty word, but you can find some good deals, but you better be careful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A wholesaler isn't looking out for your interest. They're just looking out for selling the property.
Right. And some of them do the job with a certain amount of ethics, and they're not going to sell you something that is, you know, a property that's going to end up costing you money in the long run. There's a few wholesalers that we tell people, hey, these are good people to deal with. There's other people that we say, hey, you might want to stay away from. What I would suggest to you is anybody that comes to you with a property that's a wholesaler that comes to you and says, you need to hurry. I've got 4 or 5 other people, man. They're ready to go. You need to give me an answer in the next, you know, few hours or so. Then that can be a red flag.
Oh yeah, definitely. To me, that sounds like And I know that, you know, in the housing market, there are multiple offers on a thing. But whenever I hear somebody trying to pressure me into making a decision quickly, that tells me I should really stop and think and look for what they don't want me to notice ahead of time.
Yeah. And no matter what type of property you're going to buy, use a home inspector. Make sure that you get that thing inspected, because you can end up with problems like what happened with the one where you're talking about with the electrical problem.
Yeah, and you can, you know, I mean, it might look like a great investment up front, and, you know, looks like whoever did the work previously to turn it into a rental property might look like they did their work right, and then you find out that maybe they did it themselves and they're not a licensed electrician, and now you've got some serious problems, and you can run into some legal issues as well if, you know, if there seems to be some sort of catastrophe that could damage somebody's property, you know, that's renting from you as well.
And so they can, an inspector can come in, tell you if things are up to code. They can come in and make sure that, you know, the property is safe. But then, you know, making sure that you use a property inspector on just about anything that you're going to buy is very, very important. And we would recommend that if you're going to talk to a property inspector, we would recommend either Parish Home Inspections. Crawford Parish does an excellent job, or talk to Doug Gray over at Wynn Home Inspections. He was with us on our very first show when we came in and gave a lot of very useful information. So once we've found a property and we're going to start looking at setting rents, sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out where the rent should be in a certain area.
Right. And that's also where, you know, your property management company comes into play. They know these areas. They know what kind of price tags you're going to fetch in that particular area. And they know, you know, what a home with certain amenities is worth versus a home that doesn't have, you know, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom. You know, a 3-bedroom in the south side of Chattanooga isn't going to go for as much as a 3-bedroom, say, in the Hickson area. You know, it's just the way it is in those areas. So that's where your property management comes in. You know, they have properties all around town. They know what these costs are. They know the price points that are going to get you that, you know, rental that's going to be sustainable, where you're not running people out and you're not sitting with that vacant unit for a long period of time because everybody thinks it's higher than they can get.
So we've seen that with some people that have bought properties through wholesalers as well, saying that, okay, you can get this property you can rent this property for $950 a month, and it's in the middle of East Lake. And then they buy the property and then bring it to you guys and say, all right, you know, I want to get $950 a month. And that might be $100 to $200 higher than anything else in the market. So can people call you guys to make sure, you know, before they buy a property, what they can actually get for it?
Sure. We could easily, you know, look at the market area and whatnot and tell you, you know, what prices we're getting for something similar in the area as well. And let them know that, you know, realistically, it's going to fetch this much unless it has these amenities. You know, some amenities might fetch more, you know, a large yard. If you've got a house with, say, 3 bedrooms where you're going to have kids and a large yard, people are afraid to let their kids, you know, walk down to the park these days. So having a large yard, if you're going to try and sell in a family neighborhood, might be beneficial and might drive that price point up some. Meanwhile, you know, old paint or just outdated interior or really a poor layout or small size might drive that price point down as well. So you're always better off contacting somebody, or at least if you're not going to get a property management company, do your research, get on, you know, Zillow and look at rentals, get on, you know, what is it, forrent.com or anything like that, and look at the average prices in the area where you're looking at buying a home and see realistically what those are going for, and even maybe call a few apartment complexes and see how full they are. You know, if their price points are where you want to be and they're having trouble filling up their units, there's probably a reason for that.
Now, I know you mentioned Zillow. Some of the times with Zillow, you really got to watch out because those numbers aren't exactly accurate, but it can give you a high end to check everything else.
Oh yeah,
against.
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I was on there the other day looking up one of our property addresses, and just happened to notice a condo downtown here that the guy had listed for $50 million.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a little bit outside.
Over the top.
So dealing with property management, do people just use property management for the low end properties, or are they using it for, higher end, as you mentioned, condos and things like that?
There are companies that are out there for condos and higher end. A lot of times, a lot of property management companies are either apartment complexes or some of maybe the low end areas, and that's just because generally in the really high end areas, you're not going to find as many homes that are rentals, but they are out there, and we will handle the high end as well. I mean, if you've got a $1 million home and you want to rent it out to a family that can afford $1 million home and live in whatever neighborhood that might be, outskirts of Ottawa or whatever, then by all means, the property management can still handle that for you, and you still reap all the same benefits.
And you might think that those type of properties wouldn't be available for rent, but they actually are, especially with things like companies like Vocker, with Volkswagen, some of these bigger manufacturing companies that maybe somebody might not be moving in to stay for a long period of time. They're here for a certain project. They want to have a nice house to rent. They want to have a nice condo to rent. And then they know they're going to be moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, and even like you said with like Volkswagen or some of these other large companies, they bring in a new manager for the office, and he needs someplace nice to live. He's selling his home back home, and in the meantime, while he's searching for a home here, obviously he needs someplace to live, and he doesn't want to live in a small apartment with his family or whatever the case might be. So he's definitely going to go look for a home that's more comparable to what he's accustomed to, or she for that matter, and look for that home to live in.
Okay. So in the next segment, what we're going to start talking about is we're going to start talking about things that you can do to upgrade some rental properties. What are some things that we can do to maybe make sure that these properties are more durable, are set up for renters, so you don't have to keep coming in and doing things over and over and over to be able to get them back on the market. And the other thing we want to talk about is keeping as little downtime as possible to make sure that we're able to get those things back out on the market and keep them making money, which is what they're supposed to be doing. So join us here on the next segment, and we'll be back here in just a moment. Thank you for joining us on Nooga Radio 92.7 with We've Got You Covered Radio.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say two men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford at FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. When it comes to family, I leave nothing to chance, including our financial future. I go to Michael Levy. He's local, takes time to know me, and helps me plan for our future. Don't put your financial future on hold. Call Michael Levy, 779-7755.
Even if you like your job, there are some things that can drive you nuts, like the anonymous coward who steals your lunch from the break room fridge, or maybe Tyler, the IT guy, who gives you that condescending look when you tell him that your computer is acting up again, as if somehow it's your fault. You put up with these clowns every single day. But what happens when you've had enough? That's the day you decide to retire. At least that's the hope, right? But will you be able to retire? Can you afford to retire? That's why you need to talk to Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial. They can't do anything about Cody, that moron who heats up fish in the microwave, but they can strategize with you on how to get the most out of your 401k or pension, how to grow your money without losing your shirt in the market, and how to help make your money last in retirement. Talk to Ron and Christy today about whether you'll be ready to retire when you finally had it with seeing Ethan walk out of the bathroom again without washing his hands. Gross. Call Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial, 423-710-2009, 423-710-2009.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way, the Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anyway.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings from 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Showers will move off to the south and east for your afternoon with drier and breezy weather, highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, much colder, lows upper 30s to near 40. For Sunday, lots of sunshine, still quite cool, highs mid and upper 50s, mid and upper 30s, scattered frost by Monday morning. It's apple season, and now is a great time to visit Apple Valley Orchards in Cleveland for some of the freshest apple cider and fried pies around. Open daily, Apple Valley Orchards, 423-472-3044. And I'm Sourcine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood.
We've got you covered radio right here on Nooga Radio 92.7. We're in the studio today, 423-800-8949. That's our studio line. If you have any questions about rental properties or property management, you can give us a call there. You can also reach us on our Facebook Live at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. We are live now. You can send in your questions there as well. Just as we've been talking about some basics of property management and about finding rental properties. But when you do find a rental property, say we're going to go in and we're going to start doing some remodeling on it, getting it ready for renters. Some of the things that obviously we're going to go in and we're going to repaint. That's pretty much something that you can do yourself, or if you just don't want to have the hassle of it, you can hire a contractor to do it, or of course have the property management company find somebody to do it. But another thing that tenants seem to tear up on a regular basis is flooring. And I know a lot of times the old thing was if the carpet is bad, go ahead and tear it up or have somebody come in and clean it and then put new carpet back down. But now there's some better flooring options that you can use for tenants, especially with like laminate floors. And what are some of the other things that you guys are putting into these properties?
There's it's almost like a vinyl plank of sorts. I think the brand name is Allure.
The luxury vinyl plank.
And it's easy to repair. It goes down real well. It's pretty durable. It's waterproof. Unlike the laminate floorings, the Pergo and whatnot.
Yeah,
you're actually not supposed to get that wet. And of course, if you put that in your home and then you rent it out, your tenant might not have ever seen this stuff before. They might assume it's just hardwood or laminate and throw a bucket of water on the floor and start mopping. And a month later, you've got it buckling and de-seaming. So knowing what you're dealing with and what your clientele is going to be like is extremely important. If you want to put it in your own home and you know that's not supposed to get wet, that's great. But if you put it in a rental property and then your tenants don't know what it is,
or they don't care,
right? Or they don't
care
because
they're not going to be there more than be there for a few months anyway.
Or they have the dog they didn't tell you about who's freshly potty training and now it's soaked into the boards and you've got to pull up all those boards to get that smell out of your home. So it's that. Knowing what you're going to do with the property really makes a difference on what kind of product you're going to want to use as far as flooring goes.
Yeah, you mentioned the luxury vinyl plank. That stuff, if you're going to put any kind of new flooring down in a kitchen or a bathroom, whether it's luxury vinyl tile or luxury vinyl plank, those things, they look nice. They're easy to put down. And they're pretty much bomb-proof when it comes to having a tenant in there. Now, we recommend for people that you don't do the glue down type. You do the snap lock. So that way, if you do have to repair some of it, it's a little bit easier to do. But even if it's the glue down stuff, you can get it off and then put a new piece in and do the repair.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra work on the glue down stuff to get it off. And if you're looking at being able to turn a property quickly and easily, especially if you're going to try and do those repairs yourself to save yourself a couple of bucks, the stick down stuff that it's not actually sticky on the back, it sticks to the other tiles and lays down and locks into place, is really the way to go. Even your first time laying it, you could do a whole room in an hour or so. It goes down super easy, and it's pretty easy to repair. Just a heat gun and a little bit of prying.
Well, you mentioned, getting the turn real quick, turning the property over and getting it back out on the market. That's the most important thing when you've got somebody moving out, because if you take a month and a half doing the things yourself to get that property ready to rent again, that's lost revenue that you just can't make up. You can't go up on the property too much because you're probably trying to get as much for the property as you can get in that area, in that location that you have it in. So you sit there for a month, you're not getting that money back.
Yeah, right. And you got to look at it as you're not making money off of the repairs you do. You're making money off of the property being rented and having a renter there. That's where your money comes in. You're not going to make money anywhere else on it if you don't, unless of course if you sold it. But so if you are only worried about how much it's going to cost you to repair it, then you just have to consider that a loss, versus the time it's going to take to re-rent it if it's in poor condition. If it sits for 4 months and let's say you have a $500 rent on it, you're looking at $2,000. If it was only going to cost you $1,200 to make it rentable in 2 weeks and make it highly appealing, you've saved yourself, $800 right there off the start.
Right. But because a turn is different from doing like a capital investment where you're going in and actually updating a kitchen or remodeling a bathroom or adding a bathroom. Those are some things that you can do to maybe raise the price point on rental. But just the quick turnaround, paint it, get some things done, and then get it back onto the market.
Right.
There's no opportunity for increase on that unless the property values in the neighborhood are increasing.
Correct. Yeah. If the price points in the neighborhood have gone up as far as what a unit's renting for, then obviously you're going to see more on your rental. But painting it, putting fresh flooring in it, and just a good cleaning, fixing any little damages that might be, whether it be a worn out toilet that just looks old, or whatever the case might be. You're not really doing that to raise the price of the home, but rather the appeal of the home. Think about an apartment when you go into it. If you walk into an apartment and it's dirty, you're like, I don't really want to live here. But when you walk in and it's all shiny and it looks new, even if it's not new, it still feels better to you. That's the place you want to be. And you're trying to, as I've heard it said before, make that curb appeal. You're trying to make the renter walk through the door and go, okay, yeah, I can live here. It doesn't look like somebody's just beat the place to tar.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some other things that you can do as far as being able to keep a renter long term? I mean, as we said, turnover loses you money, whether it's 1 week, 1 month, 3 months. That's money coming out of that would normally be going into your pocket. That's money that's coming out. How can we what things cause a renter to leave early or maybe not renew a lease?
Generally, price point is the one that I run into most often for people that either stop paying because they can't, they've fallen into a hard time, and for some reason the rent is the first thing they stop paying, or just they've been there, their lease is coming up, they've started shopping around, and they've found that they can save $200 over here or over there, and it might not be quite as nice of a place, but it's still a $200 savings and it works for them. Keeping a good renter, it's a little tricky. You got to keep them happy, and you got to keep their home at a price that they feel its value is, not what you feel the value is.
So another thing that a lot of times cause renters to move out a little faster is high utilities.
Yes.
And a lot of times the person who actually owns the property isn't thinking about that. They just think, well, I'm only charging $700 a month. Every other house in this neighborhood is charging $800 a month. But if they're paying a $400 electric bill, then the cost of that apartment or that house is not $700 a month. It's it's $1,100 a month. And so doing some checks on energy efficiency, making sure that your HVAC unit is up to date, making sure that you have adequate insulation in the attic, making sure windows are caulked and sealed, those things can actually help keep a renter there.
Yeah, definitely. A double pane window, if it's only got single panes, it might be worth the investment to upgrade those if you don't have a lot of windows to do and it's not too expensive. You don't have to go to anything extravagant. It's just a matter of saving your tenant money in other places so that they feel comfortable putting that money into the rent itself.
Yeah, and so we've seen some that just putting in extra insulation in the attic can help out.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And there's programs that are out there that are available from TVA. TVA has a great program that EPB takes part in. Hickson Utility District takes part in. Just about any utility company in this area takes part in, and that is the eScore program. You can go to 2escore.com and you can set up for an energy evaluation. It's free. They'll come out and they'll check your property. They'll see how much insulation you have in the attic. They'll check your ductwork. They'll do all these things, and they will actually give you money towards reimbursing you for putting extra insulation in the attic, for making sure that your ductwork is properly sealed. They'll come out, they'll give you a $25 gift certificate for Home Depot. At least that's what they did when I had my properties evaluated. And they give you LED bulbs and things like that to help reduce the electrical load. So therefore, you're able to save your tenants money. That's not you're able to give them a reduction in what they're paying, but it's not taking anything out of your pocket.
Right. Yeah. And You know, like the LED bulbs are great, and they do reduce your energy bill a lot. I get a lot of calls from tenants when they see their electric bills, and they seem to think that they're higher than they should be. And a lot of times on a duplex or an apartment complex, they want to say, well, you know, I have the exact same unit as the house next door, and I talk to them, and my bill is way higher than theirs. And I have to point out to them, well, you don't have the same people, you don't keep the same hours, you know, you might not have the same TV. You know, like an old tube television is going to use way more electricity than a newer LED screen. And so you can't always compare yourself to the neighbor. But there are a lot of things you can do, and definitely call out, you know, EPB and ask them to come out and see where you can save, where, you know, hot water and heating and air conditioning, and then your fridge. Those are your three biggest energy users. It takes a lot of energy to heat water up. So if you're just running the hot water while you're washing dishes, you know, turn it down to a trickle. If you're having the doors open, turn the AC off for a while. Ceiling fans save a lot of money too, just by circulating the air through the house and getting more even cooling or heating in the winter.
Okay. Is there anything else we can do to help keep a tenant longer?
It really boils down to making them happy, having a rental in the right neighborhood at the right price, and knowing your clientele. You know, sometimes you can't make them happy. Sometimes they're looking for that excuse to be upset, and sometimes it's not the right person for that house.
And that's when you really need to have a property management company.
Oh, absolutely.
The ones that aren't happy, they'll let you know it, and they let you know it day after day after day after day. Some of them hoping that you'll just get fed up and let them out of their lease.
Right. And I mean, nowadays you deal with, everybody's got a cell phone and a video camera and a recording device right there. And it really seems to me in this job for 11 years that everybody's looking, especially the media companies, are always looking to catch the big bad landlord that's, you know, just taking advantage of people. It seems to be their target these days. And a lot of landlords aren't trying to take advantage of people, but sometimes you find yourself in a situation where
you can't make that person happy.
Right, I'm not contractually obligated to do whatever it is they want me to do, but they seem to think I should be.
Right.
And yeah, so, you know, you really got to watch yourself. And that's where a property manager comes in. They know those laws. They know where they can push and where they have to give a little pull.
Okay. One thing that we ran into with a property that we had, 3 girls moved into an apartment, and they were great. They were great on paper. They've actually been excellent tenants, but one of them knew when she was moving in that there was a no pet fee, a no pet policy. You weren't allowed to have pets on the property. And then, you know, she came up with something that was a loophole that said she had to have an emotional support animal.
So,
and it was an emotional support cat. And I don't know about you. My kids have had cats. I don't like them. And I'm just thinking, a cat has never emotionally supported anyone ever in the history of cats. You know, they just don't really care. They're there to do their thing. And if you're there, great. If you're not there, just as long as you give them their food, it is perfectly fine. But that was something new that I didn't realize, that I could not keep her from having a cat.
You actually could have.
Well, as long as she has the correct documentation.
People are grossly misinformed on the pet policies for legal purposes. And I say this because I've actually had to have these fights both with companies that try and advocate for groups that have pets when they're not supposed to, as well as, you know, just doing the job for as long as I have. I've actually read the laws, and the Americans with Disability Act specifically says, for example, take a restaurant or a business into account for, you know, they've got a no pet policy on the front door, but you see people walk in with their chihuahuas all the time, carrying their chihuahua. Well, technically that animal's not in there. And they're going to say, you know, nobody says anything because, you know, service animal laws, and heaven forbid we discriminate. You can't ask what the disability is that the person has. You can, however, ask what services the person requires from the service animal. And one, you have to make reasonable accommodations, which means you don't have to put in I don't have to let a CNI dog into my store that sells high-end China, because the dog might bump into something. In theory, they shouldn't, but it could. Or maybe it's a hypoallergenic company that we don't want to introduce those bacterias or
hairs
pet
or
hairs
dander,
or whatever
yeah.
right into. What I do have to do is provide a reasonable means for the person to come in and experience what I have to offer, which means maybe I have to let him put his hand on my shoulder and walk him around the store and explain what he's seeing. And that is a reasonable accommodation. When it comes to support animals, it's actually not covered by the ADA.
Well,
it actually
now,
says in the law, if you ask what services it provides, and comfort is one of those things, it is not a service animal. And in the rental industry, you can actually require that they prove that the animal has been trained to provide a service and is licensed for said service.
Right. And that's what she was going in doing, trying to say on the back end, well, I've got my therapist who's going to come in, who's going to provide a letter. And luckily for us, they never provided that letter. So we were able to say, okay, now you haven't really provided this. You knew that, that it was something that you were going to do on the front end. And we didn't have that property with a management company.
Right.
So we were managing it ourselves. It was the only property that we had at the time. So therefore we were able to find some loopholes on that. But there's a lot to have to research know about this stuff. Because, once you've got a cat in a rental property, I mean, they can do a great job of taking care of the property and make sure the litter boxes are changed and everything like that. But to a lot of people, you've had a cat in there, and it's going to take years for it to not smell like you had a cat in there.
And sometimes, I've had, I enjoy my cats. I've had cats that were great, and you wouldn't have known I owned a cat if you came over to the house. One, they'd all go hide in a cupboard somewhere, and two, for whatever reason, they just didn't make a lot of smell. And I've had other cats where you could not avoid the fact that there was a cat in the home.
So we've had our first dispute here. So Josh is pro cat, I am pro violin, and I guess we'll just have to differ on that one. So if you got a question, please give us a call. Nuga Radio, our number in the studio, 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. Or you can reach us on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM on Facebook. Feel free to send us any kind of questions you might have. So as we're coming into the second hour, we're going to get into a little bit more in depth about property management companies, why you need to use somebody who's a licensed property manager instead of a guy that just says, yeah, I can go do all this for you, because there's some legal ramifications that you can get into by using someone who's not licensed, not only for you as the person who is renting the property, or owning the property, but the person who's actually providing these services for you that are supposed to be regulated, and they can be some pretty hefty fines in there.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into that. Also, again, if you have any questions concerning rental property, if you own rental property, we'd love to hear about some of your nightmares that you've had. So please just hang on with us through the break. Just want to mention that we are brought to you by Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. That's Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, 423-800-7752. If you are seeing some stains on your roof from leaks, if you are having it rain inside on you when it's not supposed to, and it's never supposed to, give us a call. We can help you out with a repair, or we can help you out with a replacement. So check us out at chatroofing.com. That's CHATT roofing.com. We'd love to be able to help you out. Please just hang on with us through the break. We will be back in the second hour. I believe Josh will be joining us for that second hour, and also my lovely bride, Michelle Schrader. She'll be on the radio with us as well. We'll see you right after the break.
Nevada. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now,
a man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say two men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Showers will move off to the south and east for your afternoon with drier and breezy weather. Highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, much colder. Lows upper 30s to near 40. For Sunday, lots of sunshine. Still quite cool. Highs mid and upper 50s, mid and upper 30s. Scattered frost by Monday morning. It's apple season, and now is a great time to visit Apple Valley Orchards in Cleveland for some of the freshest apple cider and fried pies around. Open daily. Apple Valley Orchards, 423-472-3044. And I'm Source Ian 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Rains Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Rains Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will build to suit your needs with the Rains Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Rains Group.
Where to go for lunch today? Go to the Top. The Top of the Hill Country Buffet offers a delicious lunch buffet every day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nuga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost.
WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Wendy Gillette. The Taliban and ISIS had both threatened violence during today's election in Afghanistan. Violence came in the form of a suicide bomber who blew himself up in front of a polling station in northern Kabul. CBS News correspondent Charlie D'Agata is there.
There have been more than 130 Afghan casualties killed and wounded across the country. The worst of it seems to be at a polling station here in Kabul, where, as we can count it now, 15, 20 people were killed when a suicide bomber attacked that polling station. It's too early to know yet whether that was the work of the Taliban or ISIS. Both militant organizations have struck civilian targets here in the capital and across the country.
Voting was chaotic today. Some polling stations have extended their hours and others will be open tomorrow. A stunning reversal from Saudi Arabia. The country now says journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in a fistfight. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are questioning that story. So is Amnesty International, which says the explanation and death are an abysmal new low for Saudi Arabia's human rights record. The group is asking the Saudis to produce Khashoggi's body to allow independent experts to perform an autopsy. CBS's Holly Williams reports from Istanbul.
This is a humiliating back down for Saudi Arabia. It is a tacit acknowledgement that at least some of their officials have lied. For days, they were adamant not only that they had not killed or harmed Jamal Khashoggi, but that he had left the consulate. Now they are admitting to the world that that was untrue.
Thousands of immigrants remain on a bridge between Guatemala and Mexico. The caravan is trying to reach the U.S. President Trump has vowed to shut down the southern border if they are able to make their way across Mexico. He's seizing on the issue as the midterm elections approach. CBS's Chip Reed.
The president's rhetoric denouncing immigration does not appear to be working in his favor. According to a recent CBS News poll, only 39% of registered voters approve of Mr. Trump's handling of immigration.
If you haven't checked your Mega Millions lottery tickets yet, don't worry. I won. Actually, no one did. So you still have another chance Tuesday night. And it's now a mega pile of money. Carol Gentry is with Maryland Lottery and Gaming.
Oh, my goodness. It's $1.6 billion. I like to say that with the billion. And that's an all-time world record for the Mega Millions game and for any game.
Technically, it currently ties the Powerball jackpot in 2016, but the Mega Millions prize is expected to climb before Tuesday's drawing. This is CBS News.
Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. Find out more at Progressive.com.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stories family.
No matter how modern your family might be, if you're pedaling around bedrock in a gas engine vehicle, you're living in the past.
Meet George Jetson.
The era of the electric vehicle has arrived. With instant acceleration, electric cars are more fun to drive and more affordable than ever. Electric cars are here. Plug in to the present. Learn more at plugintothepresent.com. Sponsored by Volkswagen Group of America.
It's Macy's Customer Celebration Event. Take an extra 25 or 15% off with your Macy's Card or Savings Pass. Save 25% on dresses, 25 to 40% on men's suiting and more. 50% on our fine jewelry clearance. Savings off regular sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply. And Star Rewards members, you're invited to celebrate a year of incredible Macy's Star Rewards benefits in stores today at our exclusive shopping event with refreshments, fun, and more. Visit Macys.com/events for details and hours.
A man accused of threatening schools in 2 Kentucky counties is under arrest. CBS's Jim Krasula reports.
Authorities say 20-year-old Dylan Jarrell was heavily armed when he was arrested as he left his home within sight of a high school in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Police say he had, quote, a detailed plan of attack. State Police Commissioner Rick Sanders.
There's no doubt in my mind that as a result of this investigation, we saved lives.
Police say Jarrell had a gun, more than 200 rounds of ammunition, a bulletproof vest, and 100 round high-capacity magazine when he was arrested. Jim Krasula, CBS News.
The buzz inside Narcissa Restaurant at the Standard East Village in New York this week wasn't just about the food, it was about the ACLU. A series of 9 dinners at Standard hotels in New York, LA, and Miami is raising money for the organization's Immigrants' Rights Project. Organizers say some diners don't realize how many immigrants make up the staff at restaurants. There are 6 dinners remaining. Wendy Gillette, CBS.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say 2 men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Chattanooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Showers will move off to the south and east for your afternoon with drier and breezy weather. Highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, much colder. Lows upper 30s to near 40. For Sunday, lots of sunshine. Still quite cool. Highs mid and upper 50s. Mid and upper 30s. Scattered frost by Monday morning. It's apple season, and now is a great time to visit Apple Valley Orchards in Cleveland for some of the freshest apple cider and fried pies around. Open daily. Apple Valley Orchards, 423-472-3044. And I'm Source Ian Twelve, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings from 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
For years, America's most liberal politicians have pushed a radical government takeover of healthcare, and so has multimillionaire politician Phil Bredesen. Bredesen is on record in the Tennessee press supporting single-payer healthcare. Bredesen even wrote a book advocating for socialized medicine. Even the Los Angeles Times called it, quote, pretty radical stuff. Phil Bredesen's government-run healthcare system would cost $2 trillion a year and hike payroll taxes 20% for every worker. Even worse, Bredesen's plan would eliminate your family's employer-provided health insurance, making you dependent on the government and giving bureaucrats more powers over your health care. Higher taxes, bigger government, rationed care. Phil Bredesen's government takeover of health care is too big a risk. We can't afford him in the Senate. Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood.
We've Got You Covered Radio, brought to you by Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, 423-800-7752. We'd love to be able to help you out with all your roofing needs. Back in the studio now, we have got Josh Cairns with us and my wife, Michelle Schrader, who is actually one of the owners of Paper Moon Properties. We're here to answer any of your questions concerning rental properties. And, you know, as far as hiring a property management company and why that is beneficial to you. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking there's no way that that woman's married to you, but yes, I do have an actual contract on that. And there are some severe penalties for early cancellation. So if Michelle, if you just step up to the mic right there. So this is something that is honestly making her twitch the entire time. So it's just,
oh, absolutely.
It's proof that she loves me because she's willing to actually come in and do this. We're able to take your questions and your calls here in the studio, 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. Or you can send in a question here at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM on Facebook. Feel free to send us in any kind of questions or comments that you have. So getting back to property management and some of the nightmares that you can go through handling this. What if I just want to go ahead and there's just a guy down the street. He says, you know, that he can handle it for me. He's pretty good with repairs and stuff like that, but he's going to be my actual property manager. He's going to go have the contract signed. He's going to go show the property, negotiate with the tenants. He's going to handle everything for me, but he's not licensed.
You have to use a licensed property management company. There are steps that you have to go through. You have to have a licensed real estate broker that is heading and at the head of the property management company. And those steps and those licenses are in there for your protection as the homeowner of rental property. They are the buffer zone in between you and your tenants and any possible legal liabilities. So although that guy down the street might be a great maintenance man for you to handle all of the problems that come up in the middle of the night, he cannot represent you as your property management company or your property manager unless he is properly licensed with the state of Tennessee.
So what does it take to be licensed with the state? I mean, you mentioned having to go through a real estate broker.
Mm-hmm.
So just anyone with a broker's license can open up a property management company. I mean, is that's the main thing, is you have to have a broker.
Yes, it
at
can't
the
be
head of the
just
group.
a licensed real estate agent. It has to be a broker or a brokerage firm that is one of the entities in charge of the property management company.
So as the tenant liaison for Paperman Properties, Josh, what kind of stuff do you deal with day after day that might be things that the property owner doesn't want to deal with or might not understand how to deal with, where a property management company would be beneficial?
Well, just even dealing with the court systems, having to be in court for a potentially eviction or just for a solution with a lawyer over the lack of a payment or some other failure upon the contract. For example, if your contract says that you're supposed to mow your yard and you don't, and the city's calling saying, hey, your yard's not cleaned, and you're going, well, my tenant lives there, not me. I handle that for you. I contact the city, I contact your tenant, and I make the mediation possible to get that resolved without fines and penalties, and potentially losing an otherwise good tenant and source of revenue.
Because the municipality doesn't care.
No, the city of Chattanooga doesn't care that it's in your lease that the tenant's supposed to mow the grass. All they know is the grass hasn't been mowed. People along the street are complaining, and that they need it cut down. They don't care who is in the lease is responsible to cut it. They want it done. So then you've got to know, is it, what rights you have to, how do you get the tenant to cut the grass? Do you just go do it? Because once you go do it for them, chances are they'll realize, hey, if this gets tall enough, the owner's going to come cut it for me anyways. He'll bill me for it, but I'm not really going to pay it. But that's where a property management company can be your advocate. Not only do you not have to know what to do, you don't have to do it. That's what we're here to do, is take the headache out of rental property.
So, and that's something that the property management company can do on the front end, putting things into the lease where people know that they're going to be held responsible for these things. And if they don't take care of it, there's remedies for the property owner as far as recouping the money to be able to get that grass cut, or recouping damages that were done to the property that are a little bit above and beyond just regular wear and tear. Right?
Absolutely. Like anything in dealing with a contract, it's only as good as the contract is. It's only as effective as your contract is well written. So having an attorney that writes the leases for you, even in a form, so that you can fill in the necessary information later for each particular tenant, is very advantageous, because they know all of those loopholes that your tenant might want to get out of, that they might exploit, or, whether on purpose or by accident. And if you don't have those remedies in your lease that say, if you don't cut the grass, I charge you X amount, or if you don't keep the house clean, I charge you X amount, then you're not protected. Now, you can put in there that they're responsible for cutting the grass, but then what if they don't? What is the remedy? What's the penalty? If that's not written out, then you don't really have anything that you can do about it, other than they're supposed to do it. But now what?
Well, and on that, I was in court the last 3 weeks already, and I'm in court again this week for tenant issues. And I watched a judge, a couple that was managing their own home that they had for rent, and he was up there, and he decided that the judge looked right at him and said, where did you get this lease from? Did you download this off of Google? And
it was a poorly written lease. It didn't have the right terminology in it. And the guy wound up having to keep this person as a tenant and not being able to recoup any of his losses.
Wow. So one thing that I know that you guys can do, you have an attorney that you deal with, but your background is in the legal field. Now, you're not an attorney, but you're used to doing a lot of things, as far as legal contracts and things like that. You're able to help them out with some of these things that normally an attorney would have to charge them a lot of money for. And then, of course, the attorney oversees everything. But as far as knowing what forms need to be sent out, when they need to be sent out, and what your limits are of what you can do. So whereas if you're managing the property yourself, you have to have an attorney handle most all that for you. You can actually offset some of those costs because of your relationship with the attorney that you have in-house already, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, attorneys bill by the hour for the most part. So anything that you can do on your own behalf on the front end is great because that cuts down your costs. So, working in the legal field pretty much my entire adult life, I know a lot of the things that need to be done and that can be done in advance to make sure that the attorney doesn't have to send 7 emails later asking for extra information. I know what they're looking for, so I can provide it to them on the front end. When Josh is preparing for evictions, he doesn't say, hey, I need an eviction. Let me know what you need. He has all of the paperwork, a copy of the lease, a copy of the ledger, any notices already provided to that attorney so that they have everything they need to do their part of the job.
I've also done due diligence at that point to have tried to communicate with my tenant and resolve the matter in another fashion. That way, when we go to court and the judge says, they can try and tell the judge that they did X, Y, or Z, and we can say, well, look, we tried to offer them this, they turned it down. We tried to offer them, a solution here. They didn't want to comply with that either. And the judge can see that we've already done more than what we need to do to rectify the situation, and therefore should just go ahead and grant us what we're asking.
And a judge is going to err on the side of caution. So you have to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row, either as the property owner with no management company or as the property management company. You have to make sure that everything has been in writing. Everything is following what the Tennessee Code says you have to do. And then you go beyond that so that when you're in court, the judge knows that you have done everything you can to help this tenant stay in the home or, to keep their home, because most tenants don't want to move out. Now, some do want to be let out of their leases and they're trying to get evicted, but that's rare. Most of the time people fall on hard times or they're just not fiscally responsible. And sometimes they're around the wrong types of environments to where damage gets done. They have too many people coming in and out of their home. It may not be the people that live there, but if there's too many people coming in and out of your home that are damaging the property, you as the tenant are liable for that damage. So when you end up in court, you have to make sure that you have pictures, that you have documentation, that you have. And so when the tenant says, well, I tried to pay or I did pay, that you have records that you can show the judge that you have done everything you can to keep the tenant in the home.
So you mentioned Tennessee Code. So when it comes to the code, it's pretty lengthy. I mean, as far as the regulations that you have to go through. So not everybody understands those things. Now, I know getting back to going with a licensed property manager as opposed to an unlicensed property manager, that unlicensed property manager, one, doesn't know the code, because if he did, he'd know the penalties for working as an unlicensed property manager. And those fines can be pretty hefty, correct?
They can be. I'm not certain, but they're tens of thousands of dollars in fines. And as the owner of the property using an unlicensed property manager, it may cost you less on the front end, but it's like using an unlicensed general contractor for remodeling on your home. That unlicensed contractor is not going to have the insurance policies in place to protect you. So you don't have any protection other than yourself. So you don't have general liability insurance. You don't have workman's comp insurance. You don't. So if a tenant gets hurt in the home, or if a tenant sues for discrimination by that property manager because they weren't following the code and they were doing things that they shouldn't have, then you're not protected by that unlicensed property manager's insurance policies because they can't have one unless they're licensed.
And some of those discrimination claims can be really bad. I've seen some where it doesn't even give you a set fine. It's just whatever they see fit to fine you. And that money can wind up right in your tenant's pocket, as well as leaving them potentially living there for free for X amount of time.
And some of that is not done maliciously. It's done out of ignorance or of the law, not knowing what the proper procedures are, not knowing that if you're in an apartment complex, you have to charge the same amount of deposit for each tenant in that apartment complex, because that can be construed as discrimination. If you are charging a larger deposit for one individual than you are another individual, why are you charging that deposit?
Does Tennessee regulate the amount of a deposit, say, just for an individual property? From what I've understand, that
deposits, the range of deposits, they vary widely depending on the price of the property, the price of the rental amount each month, and whether it's on a yearly lease, a monthly lease, or a weekly lease.
Because I know some states will regulate the amount that you can charge for a deposit. I believe Tennessee does actually not. Just one second. We got a call coming in. All right. Thank you for joining us. Hey, caller. What's your question? Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, is Nick LaFew still on the radio?
No, sir, he's not.
Oh, okay. What you guys talking about? We're talking Alabama, Tennessee football.
No, we're discussing home improvement and rental today. Thank you. So I think he was a little late by an hour and a half. So, but anyway, so back to these things where you're talking about deposits. So, state of Tennessee doesn't necessarily regulate the amount, but if you've got say if you've got a duplex, you can't charge one a $700 deposit and charge another one an $800 deposit, because you can get into
legally you could. However, you open yourself up to a certain amount of liability. Where you could have a tenant that claims that you are charging them a larger deposit based on a protected class.
Protected class, yeah.
You'd have to do something to prove that you've done some sort of upgrade to the other unit that warrants that additional potential for damage to be covered in that deposit.
Now, if there are amenities in one unit versus another, say we have some complexes where some of the units have washer dryer connections in them and some do not. Some have a larger floor plan and some do not. You can charge a different rate based on the value of the unit.
And we've got another call coming in. Just one second. Go ahead, caller.
These apartment complexes that are managed by these huge corporations, I've noticed, at least in my experience, if you put a security deposit down, you're not going to get it back. They find every possible excuse they can to keep your money. I mean, I was at one place and I had that thing sanitized, and they always find something. Then they threaten to ruin your credit. I mean, is there anything the consumer can do to protect themselves from these huge management companies that they're I guarantee you they're taking everybody's deposit.
It's hard.
The best thing you can do as the tenant is to make sure that when you're going through and moving in, you walk through with the management company with a checklist and you take pictures of everything. Meaning if there is a scrape on the floor on the corner near the bathroom, that is documented. If there is a change in the tint of the paint on the wall in the kitchen, that's documented. If there's a stain on the floor, in the living room, that's documented, so that you have a record that was there before you moved in. And pictures and documentation, and you can go through that checklist with the management company and have them sign it, and you sign it on the date of the walkthrough, which is typically when you sign the lease and you move in. But as long as all of that is documented, also the management company should provide you a list of what they charge for each thing. Like if you do not clean your stove, this is how much is charged against your deposit. If you do not clean the refrigerator, this is how much is charged. If we have to replace a broken light fixture because, it got bumped into or cracked, this is how much is charged. That way, ahead of time what they're going to charge against your security deposit. If they will not give you a list of what they charge and they just say, we'll bill you later, I would be wary of that.
Also, I am a renter as well, and I've heard potential landlords and whatnot, when you do any walkthroughs in the beginning, say, "Oh, well, you'll point something out and they say, "Oh, we're not really worried about that. We're just looking for big things." Tell them you don't care if they're not worried about it. You want it written down, and then make sure you do your follow-up walkthrough when you leave. If it means taking an hour of your day from work or whatever the case might be there for it.
Do the walkthrough with
them. Then they sign it and they give you a copied sign saying, this is, what we found to be deficient and what we are going to repair. The first apartment I rented, they fined me $200 for not dusting the tops of my doors when I moved out. There are some shady companies out there that do everything they can, like you said, to keep that money. One, because it's a bit of a hassle for them to get that money back out of the security deposits account they have to hold it in escrow at. And two, because they don't want to give money back. They want to keep that money. So it's in your best interest to jot down everything, no matter how little it seems, when it happens, and then go through that walkthrough again on the end, as well as even my tenants are guilty of it, not calling when there's a problem, whether it be a door not latching or the water faucet doesn't stop dripping. And then, 3 years later, it's a huge problem, but they never reported it to us in the first place. And now I've got to charge them for it because they didn't say anything when I could have fixed it for a couple of bucks.
Yeah. And, just like anything else, any other type of contract that you're going to enter into with anybody, document.
It's all about what you can prove.
Right. And I guess they're less likely to, a disreputable property management company is much less likely to mess with you if they know that you've got everything in line and you're documenting everything. You're more likely to get that back because they know if they go into court, one, it's going to cost them court fees because most of these property management companies are LLCs.
Mm-hmm. So they have to hire a lawyer.
So they have to hire a lawyer. So therefore, it's going to cost them more than they'll ever get out of it. And so and this is with anything you're going to do, whether it's hiring a contractor, hiring a roofing contractor, a plumber, a moving company, get a contract and document everything so that way you're protected.
And with security deposits are required to be kept in a separate account called an escrow account. It does not go in the operating account with your rent each month, because that money is technically still your money and they are holding on to it. Now, they have a right to charge against that money if you don't pay your rent or if you do damages to the apartment. But it is still your money they are holding on to for the length of your lease, and they are required to keep that in a separate account. So essentially, it's not in their operating funds.
All right. So we've just come up on the break. We will be right back after the break. Join us back here on Nooga Radio 92.7. We've got you covered radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Man accused of impersonating police was arrested. The Chattanooga police say 27-year-old Charles Pipkins from Hamilton County was arrested and charged with reckless endangerment, among many other charges, including aggravated burglary. Reports say two men approached a woman and held her at gunpoint, saying they were Chattanooga policemen, and forced her to hand over her cash and personal belongings. A community cash bail fund was launched. This will allow for people who can't afford to pay bail to get out so they can prepare for trial. More than 50% of people in jail charged with a crime and too poor to make bail are expected to be released. Down in Dalton, a woman's accused of stealing a credit card from a car, then using it to spend $500 in fraudulent charges. The credit card was stolen from a car at the Walmart on Shugart Road. Dalton police investigators are able to retrieve surveillance camera video of the woman. They say it's only a matter of time before she's captured. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Even if you like your job, there are some things that can drive you nuts, like the anonymous coward who steals your lunch from the break room fridge, or maybe Tyler, the IT guy, who gives you that condescending look when you tell him that your computer is acting up again, as if somehow it's your fault. You put up with these clowns every single day. But what happens when you've had enough? That's the day you decide to retire. At least that's the hope, right? But will you be able to retire? Can you afford to retire? That's why you need to talk to Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial. They can't do anything about Cody, that moron who heats up fish in the microwave, but they can strategize with you on how to get the most out of your 401k or pension, how to grow your money without losing your shirt in the market, and how to help make your money last in retirement. Talk to Ron and Christy today about whether you'll be ready to retire when you finally had it with seeing Ethan walk out of the bathroom again without washing his hands. Gross. Call Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial, 423-710-2009, 423-710-2009.
When it comes to family, I leave nothing to chance, including our financial future. I go to Michael Levy. He's local, takes time to know me, and helps me plan for our future. Don't put your financial future on hold. Call Michael Levy, 779-7755.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships, as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks, even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anyway.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings from 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Showers will move off to the south and east for your afternoon with drier and breezy weather, highs into the mid-60s. Tonight, much colder, lows upper 30s to near 40. For Sunday, lots of sunshine, still quite cool, highs mid and upper 50s, mid and upper 30s, scattered frost by Monday morning. It's apple season, and now is a great time to visit Apple Valley Orchards in Cleveland for some of the freshest apple cider and fried pies around. Open daily, Apple Valley Orchards, 423-472-3044. And I'm Source Ian 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood.
We've Got You Covered Radio. We're back here in the studio. You can give us a call, 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949. Feel free to give us a call with any questions you have about rentals or property management. Also, feel free to send us a message here on Facebook Live. You can send in any of your questions, and we can have our experts in the studio answer them for you. Again, we have Josh Cairns here, and also have in my wife, Michelle Schrader, who is the owner of Paper Moon Properties. Also, she is part owner of Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. Actually, I don't tell people this, but she's actually my boss. So what we're going to get back into is talking about why you should hire a property management company. We talked about the unlicensed contractor. So, Michelle, if you can tell us, what is the benefit of hiring a licensed property management company as opposed to the unlicensed? What is the benefit past avoidance of liability? What other benefits are there to the property owner?
Well, just like hiring an unlicensed contractor for your home, like we talked about, if you're not hiring a licensed property management company, you cannot legally, the expenses are not legally tax deductible. So they do not come off of the money you owe the federal government at the end of the year. It may cost you less than hiring a licensed property management company. However, if it's not tax deductible, what good does it do you? You're still paying you're still paying the income taxes on the money that you're paying. Now, you could deduct it, but if you get caught, we all know the IRS is not happy when people deduct things they're not legally allowed to.
Right. And so if you get caught, there can be, as we mentioned, a fine for that unlicensed property manager, but you can be responsible for the taxes that you should have been paying on them, as far as workman's comp.
You could be required to pay the workman's comp owed during the period of time that they were working.
Well, it's like the accountant. You don't hire an accountant because you can't do your taxes or you can't balance your books. You do it because you don't want the hassle of doing it and you don't want the pitfalls that come along with it.
Yeah, and how much is your time worth? How much would you pay to not get that call at 2:00 in the morning when maybe you've got some big meeting at work the next day and you've got to go over and shut water off because they don't know how to?
Or the septic tank has overflowed, or you're on vacation, or maybe you work a lot. We have one owner who works out of town a lot, and he's only in town 1 day a week, or maybe 2 days a week. He doesn't want to spend that time renovating his property or, having to come into town out of schedule to show up at court to evict a particular tenant. I mean, there's a lot of time-consuming things that aren't necessarily everyday things, but that come up as an emergency basis. And if you're in Florida with your kids on vacation, you can't drive back up that easily to deal with the fact that the septic tank has overflowed and the sewage is backing up in the toilet of your rental property. All you can do is come back a week later and see what damage has been done. And then if the home is not habitable, you're responsible for finding or providing a hotel room for your tenant. Because if the house is full of sewage and you can't get a company out there, you've got to provide them with an alternate place to live.
You can't just tell them not to use the bathroom?
No, you cannot tell them just not to use the bathroom, not legally or ethically.
Even though we had someone who was actually trying to do that once before. That was an interesting.
It was. And as a property manager or a property owner, I would stay away from the type of owner who thought that was an okay solution.
Yeah. So there's discussing that. I mean, there's some owners that come to you and said, I have properties, but this is the way I want things run. I want you to cut corners here. I want you to cut corners there. And for those people, you just say, I'm sorry, but we're not.
No, at Paperman Properties, we are not going to do anything that is illegal or unethical. We're just not. Even if it is the requirement of that particular owner, maybe we just don't do business and you need to find a different property manager, but we will not do things that are illegal or unethical. And we try to provide, the livable conditions for the tenant. So if the plumbing is not working in the house and you cannot afford to fix it, to do what's needed to fix it, then you need to move the tenants out. You can't just let them live in it. It's just not going to happen.
So when you've got a tenant that say they're behind on rent, is eviction always the answer?
It's absolutely not.
No, I always prefer to make a good tenant out of a poor tenant rather than evict. It's easier and oftentimes to bring somebody back up to a good standing with you rather than to potentially, again, have that property sit vacant for several months, assuming that they can do it. Sometimes it requires signing some sort of a agreement that they're going to pay X amount per week. And if they don't, then you're going to go ahead and move towards the eviction again. But by all means, if we don't have to take it to court, it affects us and it affects them. You know, they're going to wind up with an eviction on their record. They're going to find it harder to rent from a lot of places that are reputable. They're going to wind up with those shadier owners that just, you know, yeah, okay, well, I'll put you in here for double the deposit and $1,200 a month rather than the normal $600 or whatever the case might be. And so if we can, we will work with the person as long as we can. But at some point we have to say, this has gone too far. We have to cut our losses.
We can only help the tenants that help themselves. I mean, sometimes you have people that have just come across bad luck. You know, they got sick. They ended up in the hospital. They got laid off of their job. And they're really trying to do everything they can to pay their bills. They've just hit hard times. And with those people, we try to provide them with a list of local charities, churches, government agencies that provide everything from, you know, assistance with housing, utilities, even things down to, you know, providing assistance with meals. Because if you're paying all of your money to catch your rent up, maybe you don't have money for food on the table. Or if you put the food on the table, maybe you won't have the money for the roof over your head. So we try to provide a list of entities that will help the tenants when they fall on hard times. But that also requires that they do things to help themselves, that they contact those entities and they fill out the necessary paperwork or bring us the necessary paperwork that shows what their back rent is. So we try to help them help themselves. Now, you're always going to come across people who aren't going to pay no matter what. And those are the ones that you have to evict. But that's one of the reasons that tenant screening is so important. And at Paperman Properties, we screen every single tenant that looks for evictions, you know, criminal history. And you have to be careful with criminal history because some things you can use as a reason to not let them in, but some things are protected now. And because we've had change in the landlord tenant laws, but it also looks at collections. I mean, do they have, you know, $30,000 in unpaid bills they haven't paid to other people? Now, sometimes those are medical bills and, you know, people get sick and maybe they don't have insurance and they end up with some medical bills. But what if they have credit cards they haven't paid off and a car they haven't paid off and a cell phone they haven't paid off? What makes you think they're going to pay you if they haven't paid their other bills? Or maybe they had an eviction last year and they had to go, their previous landlord had to go through court to get them out of the home, which means maybe you will too, but you wouldn't know that. I mean, you can put it on the application, you can ask them, but unless you do the background check and the tenant screening, you won't necessarily know that about a particular tenant. And it's good to know on the front end so you can pick, especially if you have a home where you've got multiple tenants that have applied and you want to know which one to pick. Having a tenant screening is very helpful.
So say for the person who is doing it themselves, what are some other good ways to go through and screen for a tenant?
Well, they have online.
You use like Been Verified, something like that. But you have to take your heart out of the equation for a minute. You can be somewhat sympathetic to a person's situation, but you really need to set yourself a set of criteria that these are what I'm looking for. You know, everybody's got a story, you know, oh, I'm pregnant and my sister threw me out of the house because we had a dispute and I need a place to go. But you have to really stop and do due diligence and find out whether or not that's even true, because everybody's got one of these stories. And, you know, when you've been in the job for as long as we have, you see them coming. You can pretty much, you know, you hate to stereotype, but you can pretty much identify a person right off the start that you know is going to be a problem down the road. And a few of them that catch you off by surprise and say they're not the person that you expected. But you have to do that due diligence. You have to, you know, sure, you want to help them out, but you can't put your neck out there too far in that attempt to help them.
For most people, rental property is an investment and they're looking for a return on that investment. Now, there are people that have rental property that they use for a more charitable basis. And for those, you're trying to help out people in need. However, for the majority of people, they're trying to make an income on the rental property. And if your tenants are not paying rent, or if they're damaging your property, then you're losing money.
So I would suppose that social media is probably a good avenue to screen somebody. I mean, if
absolutely,
if I can see your 5 closest friends, I can probably tell you about your economic level, your level of education, the way your marriage is, your fitness, all those kind of things.
Right. And if you have people that are posting at parties or, you know, with in large groups of people with large amounts of liquor involved at 2-3 a.m. every single night, and people do post that on social media, then that's probably not the tenant you want in your home in your quiet neighborhood that you just remodeled, because you're going to end up with holes in the wall.
And if you have a situation like that, you're looking at not just driving down your property value in the event that they're trashing the home on the outside, but your neighbor's property values as well could go down. And on top of that, a lot of people don't realize, but in certain legal situations, if your tenants are doing something that's against the law, that could still fall back on you as well. For example, like the RICO Act, if they were selling drugs out of the home, in theory, the DEA could come in and seize that home as well. And now you've lost all of your investment.
And you could have to fight to get it back.
Yeah, which is quite expensive, I'm sure. So you mentioned government agencies before and government entities to be able to provide assistance. And I know a lot of people know the main one everybody deals with is Section 8. And you have some people that love it because it's a guaranteed income every month. Unless the government shuts down, your check is coming at this time every month, and you don't really have to worry about it too much. Others say it's a nightmare because of all the rules and regulations and all the hoops you have to jump through. And because that person might be a little bit more protected against eviction because of the hoops you have to jump through. What would you advise people when it comes to Section 8? Is it worth dealing with or not?
There's a lot of paperwork to deal with. I mean, as long as you know what you're getting into and you have either you're familiar with it or you have a property management company that's familiar with it, it can be great. I mean, tenants, Section 8 either pays all of a particular tenant's rent or a portion of it. And then the tenant is still responsible for paying their portion of the rent. But there is a lot of paperwork and a lot of hoops to jump through to make sure that you've done everything you're supposed to do on your end. Because say Section 8 comes out and inspects the premises after the tenant's been there for a year or 6 months and there's something broken. If you do not fix it within their timeline, whether that is the tenant's responsibility to fix or yours, they stop paying. So you don't get your rent after that particular time because you haven't done the improvements, whether it be a leaking faucet or a leaking roof or a broken door. If you don't fix the things that Section 8 says you need to fix for the tenant to live there, they just stop paying until such time as you fix it and then prove to them that you've fixed it.
How often do they do their inspections?
They do an annual inspection, and then they do an inspection before they will approve the tenant to move into the property. And, some things that you would consider the property is perfectly livable for any other tenant. Section 8 has a strict set of guidelines that your inspection has to meet for the tenant to move in there. So there may be things that you have to fix that you weren't anticipating fixing or that you may not have noticed or known about, but there's a very strict list of things that have to be fixed and have to be a certain way for a Section 8 tenant to live in that house.
And it can also be difficult because while there is a list of things that have to be a certain way, one inspector might, like interpreting the law, one inspector might see it as okay and another inspector might see it as not okay. And we've actually had situations where inspectors have come out and, said this are wrong, we fix them, and then reinspection comes up and they find a whole new list of things that the other inspector didn't write down.
So you can do a walkthrough with an owner and say, okay, these are the things we need to fix before we ever even call for that inspection because the things that they're going to be looking for.
Absolutely. And if you fix them on the front end, it makes your timeline go much faster because if they fail you on the inspection, you've got to fix those and then you've got to wait for them to come back out and inspect it. And during that time, you don't have a tenant in there. Therefore, you don't have income coming in. So if you can fix them on the front end, it saves a lot of time and hassle.
So is there a benefit to someone for going through Section 8, say if a tenant comes in and does damage to the property and it's excessive damage to the property past normal wear and tear, are there some things that being part of Section 8 has you protected as far as maybe that person needs to get them fixed before they move out or they won't be able to move to another property within Section 8?
Theoretically, but in practice, unfortunately, not often. I mean, with Section 8 tenants are no different than any other tenants. You're going to have those that damage the property, and you're going to have those that are, and you give them the list of damages. And when Section 8 does their annual inspections, they list the things that need to be fixed based on if it's owner responsibility, say the leaking roof, or if it's tenant responsibility, because they have obviously done damage to the unit. The problem is even if the tenant has done the damage and the tenant is responsible, if the tenant does not fix those things, Section 8 still stops paying you. So there will be instances where you as the owner have to go in and pay to fix things that are the tenant's responsibility, technically, and then bill that to the tenant, because Section 8, unless they're fixed, Section 8 stops sending you your automatic payment every month. And you then pass that bill along to the tenant on, in addition to their rent.
If you get the right renter in there with Section 8 and you have a property management company that knows these things going in, can it be a good, profitable way to keep people in on a regular basis?
Absolutely, because it is a guaranteed payment. The government sends you, they do an auto deposit into your account every month for each of your Section 8 tenants. And, there are lots of people that are on Section 8 that are great tenants. And there are a lot of people that are not on Section 8 that are great tenants. But like with anything, you're going to have some that are a headache.
All right.
Yeah, it's hit and miss. Any tenant's that way, though. You're going to find that with Section 8 or without Section 8, you're going to run into that tenant who takes immaculate care of their home and cares about it and reports every little issue, even if it's not really an issue. You're going to find those that just run the whole thing down.
So we got about 3 minutes left before our out. Go ahead and give the number for your company and give the information.
It's Paper Moon Properties, and you can reach us at 423-444-0700. And we'd love to take care of any needs you have, whether it be a new rental property or one you already have tenants in and just want to not have that issue of getting up in the middle of the night and dealing with maintenance issues, and rather just collect your profits at the end of the month.
All right. And people don't have to necessarily agree to a contract right off the bat. They can sit down and talk with you, talk about what the rates are, what it'll cost to have you take care of the properties. And it's probably a little bit less than what you think. What you give up in some of the rental income, you get back in the time savings and the lack of aneurysm
and the value that you're going to maintain in your rental property, instead of having it just slowly deteriorating down into a piece of junk. You're going to be able to maintain that property better because we take care of that for you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. So once again, this is We've Got You Covered Radio, brought to you by Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, 423-800-7752. If you are a contractor out there, you own a business that can benefit a homeowner, we'd love to have you on the show here. We've got you covered. Just contact us. We will be able to get you in to talk about your business, and we'd love to be able to highlight you. We're also looking for sponsors for the show, be able to get your name out. We will plug you, and once we know that you're a good qualified contractor that does things the right way, we would love to be able to back your business. One last person I have in the studio today. This is one of my asset expenditure specialists. This is William Schrader. And William wanted to let you guys know that we are brought to you by
Chattanooga Roofing Contractors. We've got you covered.
That's right. At Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, we've got you covered. We'd love to be able to help you out with anything. When it comes to roofing, siding, we even do paint and decks. We would love to be able to come out, give you a quote on your roof if you have any trouble. Also, if you have an insurance claim coming up that we are not certified adjusters, but what we can do is we can help guide you through the process of having your claim filed. This is a great time to go ahead and get your roof replaced. And because roofers are getting a little bit less busy, and we'd love to be able to come out and give you a quote. Please join us next time when we bring on another guest and we talk about things that can help you out with your home. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Man accused of impersonating police